You are more than your desirability. The second they're not stimulated by you, you're gone. Like you never mattered to them at all. You're either a fantasy or you're irrelevant. There's no space for softness, depth, or real emotion. I just want someone to hold me and ask how I am, not just use me to get off and vanish. So, I always like to say newsflash because I just feel like sometimes we all get to a place where we forget the truth. We are more than just a tool for their sexual gratification. And I'm saying there as in other gay men. I'm saying there as in people online, on social media. We are not here to just gratify people sexually. I also say that because there's been an increase, I feel like, in us creating OnlyFans accounts, but that's neither here or there. So to start off, let's just think for ourselves, because I never want to bum rush you with my own thought process. Majority of my intention with creating these guided journals is for me to facilitate the conversation, mainly because I get distracted easily, as y'all know, but also to get us as a community to a place where we start thinking more critically. You know, I love the comments, I love the interaction, but I want us to get past this. I want us to grow past this. I want us to live fulfilling lives. So think for yourself, how did we get here? And obviously I'm gonna give you some space because you know I've already got my thoughts. So for me, 3 things came to mind. The last one was a little bit harder, but lack of leaders and role models, the dating apps, and then the stigma and shame around being gay. Also, excuse me, I am a little under the weather. I'm recovering, thankfully, and it's like summertime, so I'm like, why do I need to be sick now? But I still wanted to jump on here and create videos and content because you are my people. I love being connected. Let's stay focused. For many of us, growing up gay meant growing up without mirrors. We rarely saw older gay men who were out of the closet and or embodied healthy relationships. This leaves us with no clear blueprint for how to love each other beyond the body. Specifically, I like to kind of compare myself, and I know you're never supposed to compare yourself, but it's the reality and it's the truth. My younger siblings had, at the minimum, my parents modeling in front of them how to be in relation with each other. Now, once you take it to 2 men, things get a little dicey and a little out of control, especially taking into consideration the community that we are in, trying to be in any type of committed relationship, whether that be monogamous, whether you're polyamorous, you're gonna get some stuff from the outside community, not even just the gay community, but society as a whole in general. They perceive us and look at us a certain type of way, and that influences your relationships. I mean, we still have DL men, we still are shaming feminine men, we are still praising masculinity, and a lot of men don't like to admit or come out of the closet, or they don't want people knowing that they're gay. Why that is, I don't know. I'm not digging into that. My reality is I don't care if you do or don't know, and I show up as my full authentic self. With that being said, not having role models, not having people to look at and see a future or a vision of like, oh, that's what I'm going to be, or I can look up to this person, at least for me, has really affected how I came out and my experience as a gay man. And I think that is a huge component, and I think that is a huge part of how we got here, as to we use each other as sexual tools. So I want you to ask yourself, just to dig a little bit deeper and just so that you can kind of get where my brain and where my head is coming from, who did you look to for guidance about what it meant to be a gay man, if anyone? When you imagined being older, did you see gay men thriving, loving, or at peace? And then lastly, what kind of role model do you want to become for yourself or for someone else? And this one is a big one for me because that's why I do what I do. I spend at least about 3 to 4, maybe 5 hours creating these guided journals, these assessments, because I want to be the change that I wish to see. You guys know I in all my videos saying that. And I want to see more gay men being in committed, loving, long-term monogamous relationships. Right now, the way things are looking, the way things are going, we are still in a season of using each other for sexual gratification. I mean, I just can't unsee it. And obviously, you can chime in the conversation, talk to me, because I want to know your perspective. Maybe I am just seeing it myself. But at the end of the day, that is the change that I wish to see, is more commitment, more love, more empathy, and not even just on a romantic level, a platonic level as well. So I do these things because I want to be the model for that. Now, I'm not perfect. I'm still healing. I make these journals for myself as well to get to the next place and the next level. So moving forward, dating apps taught us to market ourselves like products, filtered, cropped, and hyper polished. We learned that connection starts with a picture and ends with a swipe, and that intimacy must be instant, hot, and sexy, or it's not worth pursuing. When attraction is currency, people become disposable. I mean, the fact that getting on a dating app, the most important thing, or the first thing that you see, the first impression is someone's picture. I mean, I'm not gonna dig into how we could not do that. That's like a whole nother conversation, but that goes to show you how important image is in this current world. Where we are right now is that's the focus. How you look, how you perceive, your attraction level, your face card, your body needs to be T, all this overwhelming emphasis on the external. So why would we be shocked that we use each other as sexual tools if the first thing that we're looking at, the first thing that draws us in is a picture of someone, whether or not that picture actually is them or not? Because like I said, it's filtered, cropped, and hyper polished, and we all are still living in this world as if we don't believe that people are using lighting. Like, I literally have a ring light in front of me right now. Lighting, editing, all these things to fit this hyper polished look that we're all pressured to embody. So yeah, that is going to make us focus more on the external versus the internal. And I think that that has caused our community to hypersexualize each other. And we use and look at each other as, is this person going to satisfy me sexually? And if they are, I will pursue them, give them my attention, give them the time of day. If not, they're irrelevant. So I want you to ask yourself, do I feel pressure to perform or present a certain version of myself just to get attention? Do I measure my desirability by how many matches, taps, or messages I get, and why? And then lastly, what parts of me do I hide or shrink to stay marketable? So I don't necessarily hide or shrink parts of myself to stay marketable, but when I get onto Jacked, which is very seasonally, and it's really dependent on what I'm working on, because sometimes I need an outside perspective because I'm not the only person living in this gay world, which is why I love talking to you all so much. I have noticed a huge difference when I'm presenting myself online. And one of them is like super hyper masculine. One of them is super normal, like boy next door, guy next door, whatever. And then the last one shows my feminine side. And I notice when I use the masculine one, I get the most attention, but neither, like all that to say, they all pull in different types of interaction, different types of people. But the one that pulls in the most interaction and the most feedback and attention is definitely the masculine one. So I say all that to say, when you are on these apps, when you are pursuing people, when you are taking pictures, when you're posting online, are you hiding certain parts of yourself, or are you showing all parts of yourself? Because for me, I am all those different things. I have that hyper masculine side, I have that hyper feminine side, and then I have that middle side in between. It really just depends on my mood and my personality or what I'm feeling that day. But I don't try to hide them to get the attention, to get more likes, taps, or anything. It's just trying to showcase all of them at once, which is honestly what I love to do at them whenever I can and I have the time. I like my outfits to reflect all those sides of me. But Ask yourself, are you hiding or shrinking parts of yourself to get that attention, and why? Because to me, I think it boils down to wanting to be liked, wanting to be desired, wanting to get attention, wanting to not feel invisible. And to me, you're doing yourself a very big disservice, but again, we're not getting into that. I'm gonna stay focused. See, this is why I create these journals, so I can stay in alignment and not waste you all's precious time. All right, moving forward. So many of us entered the community already carrying shame. We were told that our love was dirty, our desire was dangerous, and our existence was a disappointment. Instead of healing together, we tried to outrun that shame by becoming desirable, because if we couldn't be accepted, at least we could be wanted. And that is something that hits really home for me, is just the idea of wanting to be wanted, or needing to be wanted, or needing to be desired. And it's almost as if we are attaching our worth, which is the intention behind this journal, is to reclaim our self-worth. We are attaching our intrinsic value, our presence on this earth, our birthright cannot be snatched away or taken away from us just because we're not wanted, or we're not considered desirable, or we're not getting that attention that we think we need to be wanted or desirable. So I want you to ask yourself, have I ever over-sexualized myself to feel powerful or to cover up internalized shame? And also, who helped me feel proud of who I am, and who made me feel ashamed? So I'm not gonna get into who made me feel ashamed, because they might take it personally. But what I will say is there's only a select few people, I'm gonna speak specifically family-wise, that I grew up around that made me feel not ashamed to be who I was. And I think a lot of people knew I was gay growing up, but there was this overwhelming need to act like it didn't exist. I'm not gonna dig too much into that, but specifically one person that I've never felt ashamed to be who I was is my grandmother. Always loved me, always nurtured me, always made me feel like there was nothing wrong with me. And I want you to ask yourself, where did you have that in your own life? Who made you feel proud of who you are? And then who made you feel ashamed? Because that's a part of what we bring into this. Are we overcompensating? Are we doing all of this? Are we making all these edits and making ourselves desirable and presenting ourselves as hyper-masculine and being super sexy and over-sexualized to compensate for this internal hurt of I'm not enough, or I have to do all this because me just as I am, presenting how I want to be, living in my authenticity is not enough. All right, chapter 2, seeing yourself clearly, separating who you are from how you're desired. So the goal of this chapter is to recognize and release the ways you've measured your worth by how desirable you are. So I want you to mark all that apply. When I want to feel desirable, I become someone who is more masculine, someone who fits in, quieter, emotionally unavailable, physically perfect, always agreeable, someone who hides their softness, louder, or more feminine. And these are just to get your brain thinking. Obviously, you can fill in the blanks where you are. I just didn't add that here. But it is important to recognize and release the ways you've measured your worth by how desirable you are, because that kind of worth is never stable. It rises and falls based on someone else's gaze, attention, or mood. When your value is tied to being wanted, you're always performing, never resting, never just being. Oh my God, this is like the performative piece of this is, I think, the most draining part. And I always go back to code switching, which is based off of the environment, based off of who I'm around, I'm going to look, be, and talk how I need be. I literally have experienced this recently with one of my partners and his family. And I'm not gonna dig too much into the details, but I don't have space to show my blackness, my femininity, my ghetto-ness, my ratchet side. And it is soul crushing. And I'm literally at a place where I'm like, I don't want to be around not a damn person if I can't show up in my authenticity. That performing is exhausting and soul crushing. Let me know what you all think about that. All right, moving forward. Desirability fades, shifts, and changes. Your worth does not. Letting go of this performance means returning to yourself. It means finding peace in who you are, even in silence. It means it means no longer needing to be someone else's fantasy just to feel like you matter. All right, so now let's get real. Y'all know I love an assessment. So this assessment is titled, this really hit home for me because I have my own stuff with attention, but am I performing for attention or living in my truth? So this will explore whether your sense of self has become too entangled with being wanted. So per usual, I have 3 sections, 3 questions each. The first section explores identity, desirability, and performance. The next section explores the impact of being wanted. And then the third section explores reclaiming truth and self-worth. So after you take the assessment, whatever your score, this isn't about judgment. It's about awareness. It's a chance to see where you've been surviving by being seen and where you're ready to start living by being real. You're not wrong for wanting to feel desired, but you deserve to feel worthy, even in silence. All right, so my last question for you is, am I ready to let go of the parts of me that only exist to be desired? What might take their place? With that being said, remember to be the change you wish to see. Hop over to realgaylife.com and join the conversation. Take care.